Welcome back to another episode of Reeeal Talk. Episode number...
I have no idea.
He's telling the truth. He completely doesn't have a clue.
Not a clue.
He probably doesn't even know what today is. You relax, because we didn't introduce you yet, and you said the wrong thing. So, it's episode number 46, people.
I was going to say 47.
Yeah, and that's what he said.
Oh, it is?
No, it isn't.
No,
It's wrong. It's 46. Episode
that
46.
was a who's on first just now. That was a who's on first moment.
How was your week, Pastor Steve? Co-host?
Fantastic.
Great. Nothing else that triggers your mind to say any other word but fantastic?
I'm just happy to be here.
There we go. I like that.
I'm really happy to be here on this great show with a fine host that just represents well. Reeeal Talk.
Fine, that's crazy. Yeah. Normally I would be happy at whatever compliments given, but I'm just going to go straight to our guest that's here. As you can see, we have another special guest, and we do this from time to time, We like to bring up a guest and allow them to work through some things, experiential knowledge, and see how we can build people up to glorify God, through this experiential knowledge. So without further ado, we have, I don't know, do I have to say minister?
Nah.
Do I have to say, okay.
Yeah.
We have Lenny Dow in the building. How's it going, man?
Good. You?
I'm blessed and highly
Highly favored
favored.
of the Lord? It's
You
good,
know.
bro.
That's awesome. It kind of sounds like fantastic.
No, fantastic sounds like fantastic. Listen, we go way back, so I'm excited about this show. And, a lot of times in these shows, I'm politically correct a lot of times. I'm more of the mild and tame person. Pastor Steve is a little different. I show the fruit of, self-control and things like that. But
Interesting.
being
Interesting.
that we know each other,
Right.
and I just feel more comfortable here. This is going to be very interesting.
More comfortable with what?
With being able
Showing your
to
true colors?
not true colors,
That's exactly what you said.
not true colors, but being
You
able.
put it in a politically framed sentence.
I just feel like
But for us
I don't
that
have
really
to.
know your true colors.
I feel like I don't have to worry about if I'm offending you or not because you know me enough.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
So with that being said, as we do with all our guests here, we always start off with them walking us through the story of how it is that they became saved. So just give us a quick brief story about, what led you to Christ.
All right. Let's see.
Talk up, please.
I was raised in a church, and then when I hit 13, 14, I pretty much did my own thing. Fell in love with street life a little bit. I was very rebellious. That's what my mother did. She was a praying individual and a fighter, so I was conflicted. Very conflicted.
She was afraid of the but a fighter.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
but a fighter.
Got you.
Her verses still, the Lord, taught her hands how to fight. You know what I mean? So that's her verse. And
Got
there's a
you.
time for everything.
And there's a time to knock somebody out. And then there's a time to pray for them afterwards. And there's a time.
And then she fell in love with a gentleman that I thought and I loved as a father. He was very abusive over time. Got into the drug life and extremely abusive. Almost killed her. And then I tried to, be a man and try to kill him, but I wasn't strong enough mentally, emotionally to take that step, which I'm grateful for now, present day. But that led me to have a mindset of isolation, seclusion, because we had a rule. What happens in the house stays in the house. So, I hated a lot of people because nobody would defend her. And then when she finally left, he found her and almost killed her again. So, that just sent me on a downward spiral. So as time went on, I was, just living, trying to please myself, trying to keep myself above water, trying to figure things out. Then I started working at the Hyatt Regency Hotel.
Okay.
and worked at EB Greens. And on my first day, I was a half an hour late.
Your first day, you were half an hour.
But I had a conversation with the executive chef at the time, Ron Reeeal.
Still dropping names. Okay, go
Oh,
ahead.
my man Ron, and he said I could be late, but he didn't delay. He didn't transfer that information to the person that was in charge that day. So I walk in. I had on a white jacket, checker pants, and I had my white A-Dogs on because I forgot my work shoes. So you don't wear white shoes in the kitchen.
Okay.
White sneakers, or bright white sneakers.
Bright white, fresh. I was fresh. You know what I mean? So, and then the guy, I'm name dropping, dog, because
Do you?
Bobby Anderson was like, "Yo, I read your application. It says you need Sundays off. Why you need Sundays?" And I was like, "Because I go to church." And he said, "Oh, that's good, because my man Steve here is a minister." And I was like, "Nah, I don't go to church. I just want to watch the Bills game." Yeah, straight up, busted.
So, did you get convicted because he was a minister?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, I was raised in a church. We had a reverence, high respect for ministers.
Okay.
High respect, deacons, ministers,
Worship
ushers, right? So,
Yo, when we saw this dude walk in, because it's me, as far as
Oh, yeah, we didn't. I don't know. We didn't. He didn't get there, but go ahead.
no,
Pause.
but
I'll wait. All right,
but
hysterical.
so he was my trainer. He trained me in the job, and I was already nervous. See, I was trying to leave the street stuff alone.
First of all, he was half an hour late.
First of all, he was a half hour late.
Yes.
And he walked in the kitchen with some white sneakers on. So me and the supervisor we looked at him when he was across the kitchen. We looked at each other like, you don't want to know what we said.
Please, not on this show.
Yo,
Not on this show.
yo, we call him BA. Bobby Anderson. BA was like, yo, you see your boy right there?
So they probably was taking bets like he's not.
But
Going
We already knew this
He yelled at
dude
me
wasn't
from,
going to last.
from fire, and it's a kitchen full of people. And in my mind at this time, it was like, "Yo, you're embarrassing me." And then I'm like, so I'm nervous because I can't lose a job. I got
You can't lose a job, but you're at half an hour late. Go ahead.
because I was leaving another job. So 2-week notice, if I put my 2-week notice in, then I wouldn't be able to work at EB Greens. So I had to work on both. So I got off at 3, and I had to rush. It was right around the corner from each other.
Gotcha.
So I didn't want to just quit, which I ended up having to do because couldn't be half an hour late again.
All right. So salvation.
Yeah. So anyway, and he was my trainer, and he would basically witness to me. So he's like, you was raised in the church. I was like, yeah. And then he asked me all these questions and things like that. And I was thinking to myself, like, first of all, dude, like, who in the world are you, like? But it made me think. And it, convicted me. So, speed things up. In May, I used to get depressed a lot growing up. It's my birthday and Father's Day close. And I always got depressed, always got in fights, always got in trouble and everything. So one day, I got off from work early, and I was thinking about really killing myself. I was super depressed. And it was May 16th. It was a Saturday. And then at this time, my wife now, we were living together, but we weren't married. And I went in, and I was just frustrated. Ended up going to sleep, woke up the next day, said, I'm going to church. She looked at me like, church? So I went to church, which was, Christ Crusader Assembly, this church, and I wore a flower shirt, suspender, short set, sandals with no socks, and an earring. In my mind, I wanted somebody to say something to me because I was going to go off on the ushers.
I can tell.
I was going to go
Listening
off.
to that outfit.
I was going to go off. I was just going to spaz out. But Sister T and Sister Janie, they just showed mad love when I came in and sat me down. And the former pastor here, he preached about suicide. And he said God changed his message that day. And the message he said is that whoever wanted to kill himself, God is saying you're not ready. He didn't preach a message of love. And I went home. I didn't even get saved that day. I went home, went to work that week. That next week was the worst week of my life. Like, just everything bad happened. Came back the next Sunday, preached, got convicted. Don't even know what he preached about, but I ended up going up and got saved. I went up and got saved and confessed and everything. From there, I ended up moving in with Steve. I moved in with him, and he just basically mentored me up to 12 o'clock at night when he fell asleep. You know, so that's my salvation story.
There's so many jokes I want to say.
Yo, this gonna be fun.
So wait, real quick. From the time I told you guys this is going to be very interesting. So wait a minute. So just so I can make sure I have everything correctly. All right, I'm not even going there. Just so I can have everything correctly. After the suicide message, and God just kept dealing with your heart. Steve and Steve obviously at work, mentoring you and you know, pretty much discipling you or getting to the point of discipleship, right? And over a course of time, was it the time you moved in with him, or was it after you moved in him that you accepted Christ?
And I got saved that next following Sunday. I went to church and just.
Oh, okay. So after that following Sunday, about the person preaching.
So what happens is maybe a month later, I was struggling. I was saved and I was struggling. I couldn't, stop doing the things I was doing. So I was at work and I had a passion mark on my neck. And he looked at me. He was like, "You struggling?" And I almost cried on the line. Like, I was super emotional. And he started laughing at me. He just laughed. Yeah, but he just laughed. And then he was just like, yo.
I mentioned having the fruit of self-control.
Yeah, bro.
Just kidding.
But then he asked me to move in. There was another gentleman living with him also at the time, an older gentleman. So basically, it's another dude that got saved and was struggling at the church, and he was mentoring him. He was an older gentleman, he was older.
So that's what's up. From a guy that you seen 30 minutes late, and already probably thinking plenty of different things. Probably at that time, you probably may even stereotyped him.
We did. DA and I definitely did. We labeled him as like, yo, this dude ain't gonna last a week here.
God used you to be able to bring him to Christ, and eventually the Holy Spirit opening up his heart and him accepting the gospel message. So that's great. All right. So your background, you're a coach. Mm-hmm. Are you a teacher, or are you no longer a teacher?
No, I'm a teacher.
You still teach? Okay, you're a teacher. You're a father, husband. Am I missing anything so far?
No, you good.
Counselor. Mm-hmm. You are a counselor. Is that the actual title or phrase, or is there? Because when I mentioned that Steve is a cook, he tells me he's an executive chef. And then when I say he's executive chef, he says, no, actually, I'm a regional executive chef. So I'm asking, just for the people.
I'm just saying, for clarification.
For clarification.
My identity is my occupation as far as when it comes to the culinary world. I'm a regional executive chef.
I respect that. I just want to put respect
if
on
I called you an accountant, are you in a...
I'm no longer... I'm not in... I have a degree in accounting, but right now we don't discuss what I do. However...
So in proper terms, I'm not a legal counselor.
Okay.
I don't work for the state. I'm not mandated to follow state rules.
Okay.
I'm considered a biblical counselor through a course that was given by the chapel church, and Dave Drake developed a counseling course.
So you have like certifications?
Certification.
Okay, cool.
Counselor. But within the teaching and the coaching and growing up in the ministry in this church, you pretty much counsel, people that you're responsible for, being a youth leader, a minister, and so on and so forth.
Right, but you weren't certified.
No.
Being here, and you also, I'm pretty sure there are courses and things that you took.
Yes.
In there. Okay, so what led you to? I mean, what's going on in your mind that says like, I want to be a biblical counselor? Or Christian counselor.
Yeah, actually, it was like I know as far as certification wise, I understand what you're saying, but the things that we did here, the different ministries we had, dealing with kids I was teaching, inner city kids, peer mentor group, doing street witnessing, and just being responsible for the youth, and then even dealing with some of the adults. You get into situations where you find yourself counseling them through different situations that arise in their life. They'll call you and they'll say, Mr. Dow, I need to talk. And then, okay, and then you'll say, we're going to meet every Tuesday at 7:45 in the morning. Class starts at 8:25. You'll be here. I'll make sure I'm here. So you get every Tuesday to every Wednesday with different kids, and you're just listening and you're helping them deal with their life. So when we brought that here and started getting into job skill development, and getting really personal with not just the child but their families, you see the importance of it.
Sounds like mentoring. Are you saying mentoring and counseling is the same thing? Equals the same thing?
Mentoring and counseling have similarities to it,
But there's still a difference, though,
but
right?
there's a difference.
Okay, so are you saying then what led you to want to be a biblical counselor is that you felt like you kind of was already doing some of the similarities as is, so why not take the certification and be able to impact more people?
Yes, and in a different way, in a more professional way. So the difference in counseling and mentoring is that counseling, there is a setting. There is a mindset that goes into it. Mentoring, I may pick up an individual and take him out for ice cream, and then we have our conversations there, or a ball game or so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. Counseling, everybody know what the deal is. If you come and see a counselor, you're not going to bring a chessboard and say, let's play a little bit of chess. Mm-hmm. Your mind say, okay, I'm going to speak about something, I need help with something, or I may be court mandated, just different reasons. So it's a professional guidance, the counseling aspect of it.
Got you. You have anything to add for right now? Okay, cool. I want to start off by asking, a question so we can dive in a little more deeper into the subject matter. Thank you for your explanation on, what led you to want to be a counselor, especially in this day and age and time. A lot of people are probably just running away from other people with issues, like, have your own truth type of thing. So to be able to want to take that responsibility to want to counsel, I think is commendable, because people, may shy away from that or have just different motives on why they want to do that. My question is, how do you deal with, and this just could be me, and you please share, when I hear Christian counseling or biblical counseling, in my mind, I'm thinking, it's always in the churches that I was raised in, it was kind of seen as something negative, okay? Almost, I don't want to say too much to the point of like how if you go to a doctor, then you're not trusting God. Not to that far of an extreme, but how they viewed counseling was almost as if you weren't depending on God enough in the situation, all right? So what would you say to somebody who has this negative mindset on a biblical counselor or Christian counselor? Like, what would you say to that person who's like, you know what, why should I have to go and see a counselor? I'm a believer. Like, what am I going to do? Like, why can't I just, hold on to the scriptures and pray and have the Spirit of God work in my life?
Okay. So to answer that, I'm going to say something, and you might disagree, which is fine.
Oh, let's get it. This is real talk, baby. Let's get it.
As a Christian man, and being inside education and seeing counseling from a quote unquote secular view, I am not against counseling. Even if
in general.
Mm-hmm. So a school counselor, I have seen school counselors help nullify situations, volatile situations, whether it's a kid may want to commit suicide, depression, family things, arguments, and things like that. I have seen trained professionals help nullify situations and then give kids an action plan to help deal with anger, right? Squeeze ball, X, Y, and Z. Mediation rooms and things like that. Now, as a Christian, I know that that's only going to go so far. So biblical counseling, because I'm not going to be front. When I heard the term biblical counseling, my mind was like, because I had the same mindset off the way I was raised.
So do you think then that you're not afraid of the stigma that the church has attached to psychology?
Yes, I am. I am not afraid of it.
You're not afraid of the stigma that the church has attached to psychology because you've been able to break up that stigma in your own mind to recognize the healthy side of good counseling, and at the same token, the additional sense of counseling that occurs from somebody who's now approaching man from a biblical perspective.
Yes.
That's what you're saying. So you've
Yes.
been able, you're able to go through that. Walk somebody through that.
Okay, so I'm gonna use myself. Being raised that what happens in the house stays in the house puts you in a box to where whatever is going on in your life, you can't trust anybody to help you with. Now,
Meaning you're saying that the way you were nurtured in your home, that created a mindset where you're saying that the only people you can trust are those that are in your home.
those are in your home,
Yeah.
right?
Or
Now,
family, whatever, certain families.
certain family.
Yeah.
And if your life doesn't change after you tell this family member and they don't do anything about it, or their wisdom or their advice isn't helpful and doesn't change the situation, which is key,
Yeah.
then you're going to turn away from them too. So growing up, then getting into education, taking all these classes, dealing with kids, having kids confide in me, and they didn't respect me as a Christian because they didn't understand who Christ was. They only respected me as somebody that they can trust. Mr. Dow, you always here, you're always early, you always asking questions, so on and so forth. And then when something tragic happens in their life, I practiced something. We did a Bible study here years ago, and it was dealing with the church and the state and law, how to bring Christ to schools basically, and not separation of church and state. From there, I asked the Lord, I said, you know what, Lord, if I ever stand on you in school, I'm going to pray that you'll always have my back. So if something ever, a kid was going through something tragic, I would ask him, do you mind if I pray for you? I'm a Christian. I'll pray for you at home. I'm not talking about laying hands on you now, but do you mind if I pray for you and your mom? And the kids would say, no, thank you. Or to the parent, I heard about what's going on. Do you mind if I ask my church to pray? And we had prayer session. We used to pray every Wednesday. Write down the name and you actually pray for them. So from there, I began to see that, that bondage is serious. And for the church,
What bondage is serious?
the bondage of not
that
being,
you had
Yes.
when you were with how you were raised, and it interfere with your ability to get outside of that to actually function and help people.
Yes, and even I'm not going to talk to anybody in the church either. So if what stays in the house, what happens in the house stays in the house for schools and for churches. So even if I got a youth leader, how much you going to tell the youth leader? Mm-hmm. How much are you willing to tell the? And I'm going to use all positional titles. The women's president, the men's president. If your father is beating your mother, how much are you willing to tell the pastor? Do you know the pastor well enough and trust him as a kid, as a teenager? Do you? And then if the pastor leaks a secret, or the youth president or whoever leaks a secret, and because they're flawed, then it pushes you back more into a corner. So now in my profession as a teacher, and then also hearing things from kids, deep things about their families, asking them, can I share what, I want to introduce you to another person, introduce you to Pastor Steve. And then him having the passion that he has for souls, and then him finding a way to get involved in life, learning, seeing this. I started to be a large conflict in my soul. I started to war. Because even in my Christian life, I wasn't opening up to anybody. It was hard for me to open up. There are certain things I would share. I can share street stuff with you.
What's wrong with
I
you?
get it.
Not wanting to share?
No. yeah, not wanting to share.
I can share street stuff with you, but the deeper things and the impact, I wasn't willing to share. And as God showed me more about myself, I needed to be free.
I want to push back on two things that Pastor Steve kind of mentioned when you had stated that you don't have an issue with secular counseling, you were addressing that you don't have an issue with the stigma that comes from it, correct?
From the church,
From the church,
From
yes.
the church, yes.
And you also said that you know that it's going to be short term, that whatever answers that these psychologists or counseling in general is going to give, outside of it being biblical counseling, you know it's going to be short termed or short lived, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess my question is, how do you balance recognizing these people may have no viewpoint or standpoint like on God, right? How do you navigate through the fact that maybe what they're doing though, because you address like the good things, the fact that they're gonna, hey, squeeze the ball, go do these things, and like you're just helping out the anger short term. What if they start counseling on things that start to go outside of the Bible? Because remember, it's not biblical counseling. What is your mindset then on? Do you still stand behind this idea? Like, well, I'm still with them counseling these kids right now. What, especially in the way that the world is shaping up.
So
I need to clarify that. I
because
need to understand what you're asking him. Are you asking him that if the resolve that I'm offering isn't Christ-based, what problems do I have offering something that's not Christ-based as a Christian? For instance, I may tell them they need to repent and turn to Jesus Christ, and it's there, the true Spirit of God will enter, blah blah blah. But I can't go there right now with them, right? But I might tell them something that's still good and right, that within that framework could lead them to a place of peace that ultimately brings them to a place where I can have a conversation about Christ. Is that what you're asking?
No. What I'm asking is, because that's still leading to...
But even if they never go to a point of Christ, let's just say I just want to clarify, I need to understand, is that the solutions that I could offer that are not biblically based, would I have conflict as a Christian offering those solutions because they're not Christ-based or biblically based?
No, I'm not asking you as a person. I'm saying...
Not me, but I'm saying if I was the person that's being asked, which he is, I'm just looking for clarification.
Yeah. I'm asking this. What do you do with the fact of a counselor who isn't Christian, right? When the advice that they're giving, right, is starting to now go contrary.
Give us that's right. I need an example.
I could give you an example. I mean, you tell me if this is what you mean. Individual struggles with anger, a kid, right? So now a kid has a plan. The plan is when you get angry, you need to walk out the room, and your teacher knows you can walk out the room. So the student walks out the room, okay? A student can't be in the hallway by themselves, right? So the student walks out the room. I follow them. I have to make sure that they're okay. So that's a plan. Or squeeze the ball, or beat a weeble wobble. You take a bat, you hit it. Go hit it as much as you can. As a Christian, I know that that's not doing anything for the individual, because that weeble wobble or that squeeze ball can represent the very thing that's making them angry. That hitting them, it can be, I'm hitting my father now.
They're replacing the identity of the true person into that item, but they still haven't resolved the issue they have with the true person.
Yes. So now, in saying that, okay, cool. This is a momentary solution, because right now they can't be in this setting.
In the classroom.
Can't be in the classroom. So if I have a chance with that individual, so there's two things. If I have a chance with that individual, I develop a relationship with them. If I can invite them to something outside of school, I'll do it. If I don't have any relationship with them, so I have things that I pray for on certain days. On Mondays is days I pray for people at school, my students, basketball, whatever, that I don't have relationships with or I have relationship with. And every Monday when I get up, I pray on these particular things, okay? So, and I wait and hope for a door to open, whether it's me or somebody else. So although I understand, like I don't have a beef with secular counseling, as long as the biggest thing that I'm struggling with as a Christian now is the impact of medicine on an individual, where I can't reach them in conversation because their processing is much, much slower. much slower.
They're so medicated.
They're so medicated, right? So
their natural process of thinking is.
but I'm not against medication because some people need medication in order to help them.
I'm against it to some degree.
To some degree, but
I'm just saying.
But it doesn't cure what we're looking for.
Correct.
Biblical counseling focuses on the heart issues. A biblical counselor is not, unless they are a doctor, they could be a doctor, but me, myself, I am not a doctor. I won't prescribe medicine. I won't
Right.
prescribe.
You're not a psychiatrist who's like a medical doctor who deals with the mental disorders. Got it.
Right.
So you did answer my question, because I know that we can all agree on the whole, if there's something positive for the kid, that we can live with the positivity piece of it. But eventually we have to ask ourselves something. If a person is not a believer, if they're not a biblical counselor, then the end goal to that person is self. It's humanity. It's gonna turn into humanism.
Right.
So what I'm asking, I guess, because you already had answered, like, no, I don't have a problem with the counseling. So I knew you meant in the sense of, listen, if they're going to provide a temporary means for the fix until God can get to somebody who can deal with them and go deeper, that's fine. But I just wanted to point that out to our audience, that what you're not addressing too, though, is in some of these instances where people are starting to put the focus on self and start to glorify self, we're not advocating for that type of...
Right. And also, understand it's also about secular counselors also. There are some secular counselors who are extremely compassionate. Compassionate.
Yeah, sure.
And their love for the individual is beyond understanding. They're willing to do, whatever they can to help them. Also have to pray for them, because they're going to reach a point in everything that they've been taught and all that they know, when what they're doing is not reaping anything. The results, there's no fruit of deliverance for this person. There's nothing I can say. There's nothing I can do. And they get caught in the pickle. Well, like, man, I tried everything. Because at the end of the day, if something isn't working and you're not biblically based, you have to place the blame somewhere. And they're not going to place the blame on the devil. And they're going to either place the blame on themselves or place the blame on the kid or the environment that the kid is around. So they feel if they take the kid out of the environment and put them in a more loving situation, then change can happen. So I understand it. I know that a change situation can monitor behavior, but can it truly change a person's heart and their desire, what they long for, what they do in order to get comfort and pleasure, and not just as far as pleasure, but how they deal with their pains and their hurts.
Yeah. Relief.
I got you. So there's two more questions that I want to dive into. We got a couple minutes to address this. What would you say if a person, and mind you, especially minorities, we really have an issue really dealing with counseling, and it seems like, oh, you need help. There's like this stigma again, where it seems negative. What would you say to a person as a believer now, right, who thinks that this is just for people who are weak-minded, people who just aren't strong enough to, going back to my question about depending on God. Like, let me give you an example scenario. Let's say a person dealing with pornography, struggling. Most men, I think one in four, one in three, something like that, deal with that. So let's say one person is like, man, listen, don't worry, man. I got out of it before, just keep praying and trusting in God. And another person is suggesting, man, you might need to go see a biblical counselor, man, for that. You need to go through that. And then the person who told them, like, yo, you'll get out of it, don't worry, just talk to God, is like, that's some weak-minded stuff. You're not having enough faith there. How do you address that when a person is basing the fact of going to see a counselor is not having...
to being weak.
Yes, and also, when I mean weak, not having enough faith. I want to put that in there because a lot of Christians use that phrase.
Okay.
Well, you just don't have enough faith.
Well, in dealing with Christians that look down on counseling, on biblical counseling, first of all, you definitely got to take them to the Word if you can have time to really deal with them. And the question becomes then is, how does God feel about counseling? Ask them that question. They'll say what they'll say. And you say, okay, do you have any verses that, would you be willing to read verses that speak about counseling?
I got a verse that I feel like will kind of, address something dealing with like counseling.
So give me a verse.
Colossians 2:8
Says what?
It addresses about not being caught up in empty like philosophy or like certain type of like teachings or something like that, like refraining from like the world's view of things. It's in Colossians chapter 2 verse 8.
Do you want to go there?
Yeah.
I mean, we could go there really very quickly.
But he didn't finish. You didn't let him
So
finish.
go ahead.
So you asked me that question. Now, once we get into scriptures that deal with, especially the word counselor or counseling, the idea, giving a definition of what it means, and then looking through scriptures to show that God has always elevated not a counselor role, but elevated the responsibility of one counseling another. He is even called counselor. Biblically, now we're talking about God. So then, if you're a Christian and the Holy Spirit, like this mind be in you, with that was in Christ Jesus. If you have the Spirit of God in you, and you look down on a name given to God, the question is why. Okay? So then,
You ain't God. Go ahead.
huh?
Because you're not God. But go ahead. That's why we look down on it.
That's right. Yeah.
All right. So, but
Just trying to make a joke.
But now you go into then you go into things in Proverbs. You go to Jethro. You go to Rehoboam. The power of counselors, whether you listen to good counselors or bad counselors.
So by definition, what is a counselor? Is it just to give advice, biblical advice? Is that biblical counseling, a counselor?
So I'm gonna read you the definition that I use when I teach in the course.
Good. Give us that information.
Okay. So the biblical counseling, a process where the Bible, God's word, is related individually to a person or persons who are struggling under the weight of a personal sin or life difficulties with suffering, that he or she might genuinely change in the inner man to the pleasing of God, to set a plan of action. So biblical counseling, to be honest, to keep it in simple terms, it is the counselor giving a counselee the tools in order to help them grow in the Lord.
Would you say that the person that's
Whether it's rebuke, whether it's
so when you get instructions from a wise person, and now those instructions are given to the listener, that person that's listening has an opportunity to change their behavior from the instructions they're receiving. That process
It's counseling.
is counseling.
That's counseling.
It doesn't mean that this person that's talking is called a quote unquote licensed counselor, but the biblical theme behind the idea of counseling is a wise individual giving instructions or giving information for the listener who's suffering or hurting that needs to make changes, can be informed and to learn how to do what they need to do because now they're informed from the person that's speaking to them.
Amen.
That process is counseling.
And
therefore you're saying that's biblical.
That's biblical. And the crazy thing about it is I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think is a kid's...
You asking me questions
Yes.
on Real Talk. Okay, go ahead.
No, because it'll help explain something about counseling.
Okay.
What do you think a kid's first, majority of inner city kids, because you said within the black culture.
Yes.
What is their first counseling law or rule given from a parent? What do you think? When it comes to dealing with school, when they go to school, what is a parent's first counseling law?
When it comes to school, if somebody hits you, hit them back.
That's it.
That's information.
That's information, right? That is counsel from a parent to a child. Now the child takes that information. Now, it may be anger. It may be over a little toy, mine, and the kid just pushes him. Now the child then has to make a decision. Do I listen to my counselor, my mom, or do I deal with the school rules? No hitting, tell the teacher, X, Y, and Z.
Child's conflicted.
Right? So now, if the child then comes home and be like, Mom, this is what happened. And Mom said, what did you do? Now the child's going to be conflicted to lie because he can get in trouble. Or I hit him and now the teacher gave me this note, now I can't go back to school. Well, you just won't be going back to school or whatever. So that counsel now has developed a child to have a mindset how he's going to deal with life.
From moving forward. Yeah.
From moving forward. So now he gets saved. He has a problem with anger. Now he hits. He's very abusive. His friend says, I want you to pray. Give it to the Lord. God will change your heart. I learned this from a counselor. So now you want me, and then you're going to say that, okay, the Holy Spirit is the comforter. It's going to reveal all things to me. So now I have to depend only on God to speak to me. And I have to wait through messages. So only way I'm going to learn from God is from the preacher, a Sunday school lesson, a song, or him intervening. So I can't speak to anybody. So even if I have a quote unquote, I'm going to kill you with this, spiritual father, spiritual mother, spiritual mentors. Is a spiritual father biblical?
No.
Is it? It's not.
I don't see the word where you'll see spiritual father.
Did not Paul say?
Oh, he said a
My
spiritual
son
father?
Timothy.
No, my son Timothy in the faith.
Okay.
Right? So I understand the concept. So if I'm only dependent on talking to the pastor, if I'm only dependent on talking to a spiritual mother or father, and I don't have anybody else to talk to, and even in smaller congregations, you can't expect the pastor to talk to everybody. You can't expect the men's president to talk to all the men on their issues. He can have a Bible study and things like that.
And that's where the counselor
I got
will.
the verse that sums this up.
Okay, go ahead.
Proverbs 22:6, a verse that everybody uses and misuses, and we teach it here all the time about how to understand it. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. That has nothing to do with evangelism, has everything to do with parental guidance, parental teaching. The influence a parent has on a child is so profound that when he is old, he will not depart from the teachings, but will grow as a prudent man or a prudent woman into their life, to now they're departing from their father and mother, cleaving to his wife, and going on and having his own family. That's counseling.
And here, peep this. A city can be besieged, war, right? And the individual said, well, I'm scared. I don't know what to do. Pray. God will help you get through this. Okay, what does the Bible say? What does the Bible tell that individual to do? If you are in war, it says, and the verse says, where no counsel is, people fail. But in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Then there's 5 different verses that say the same thing, and one of them, three of them deals with war. So for me to say, okay, Lord, our city's being besieged, I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna pray. I'm gonna go in the temple and I'm gonna pray.
And I'm gonna trust you.
And I'm gonna trust you. And that's great. He can show up and do miraculous things. But then I have a wise counselor in the city.
Yeah, and I think too, just to your point, is that we don't see this consistently being lived out. These same people will be people who will go to marriage counseling. These same people will be people who have what do you call those groups where
Subgroups?
is it cell groups? Is it called or something where like you
Community.
There's in a big church you have like
community groups.
So you have like your community groups. These same people who will tell you you just need to trust God. Don't go to a counselor. They're trusting in people who are hearing
Or an accountability partner.
Yeah, or accountability partner. So I think you've laid out a great point on understanding counseling.
I think we need to we need to have another opportunity to talk about the stigma and what it's doing to the church and how it's crippling the individuals that are in the church from growing spiritually healthy in a mindset of receiving good information that's outside the pastor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we'll have to bring you back another time to come back and address this topic, because there's still some more things that maybe the believer needs to understand and wrestle with. But
These people have to come back and watch us again, because we got to wrap this up, man.
they do. It won't be in episode 47, but we'll definitely bring you back to be able to continue on addressing biblical counseling. I think so far you laid out a great foundation, and to be able to work through and get people to see why it's necessary. But we still need to go a little further and dive into some actual topics, issues. what verses really apply to seeing these situations, and then still navigating through the worldly understanding of biblical counseling. So, Pastor Steve, do you have anything else to say?
No, I think it was great. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for being here,
Thank you guys for having me.
and we'll definitely have you back on another episode. God bless.